Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. This is the Sunday after the 2024 presidential election, and I feel like there's a few of us who are just like, I can't be in a church today. Personally, not for me today. It's going to be a self-care Sunday for me. But you know, I'm a Christian and it informs a lot of my beliefs and it informs a lot of my decisions. And it makes me question a lot of other people who claim to be Christians because, you know, I've got like book stacks like this. And I don't see this kind of wisdom coming out of everybody. So the other day on Instagram stories, I shared some receipts of a church that I used to go to that is very much a evangelical, fundamentalist, Pentecostal church. And I was trying to explain how pro-Israel evangelicals are and how closely tied they are to Trump and how bad this is going to be for Palestine, because evangelical Christians see anything that happens between Israel and anyone else as part of this like cosmic fantasy story where you have to be on the side of Israel, and that will like bring about like the end times, like it'll bring Jesus back and there's going to be like this cosmic war, and to them genocide is justified. Like genocide is part of this cosmic fairy tale that they think they see in the book of Revelation. And this is just not true at all, but this is how they operate, and this affects our politics hugely. Like I can't overstate how much this informs American politics. So that's why it's a little tough to be in church today. So here are 25 books. I was like, you know what? Let me share a couple of the books that I have. Just kind of thinking through, like, oh, I have a few on my nightstand. Here's a couple of things. And then I started collecting them all. And I have 25 right here. One of them is written by a white man. The rest of them are not. And that's how I prefer my religious Christianity diet to be these days. About like 1/25 white men and then everything else something else, because I did, 30 years of listening exclusively to white men, so I'm done with that. I'm gonna try my best to talk quickly through these books and just give you some suggestions on where to go from here if you're part of this group like me who still believes in God and considers yourself a Christian but does not want anything to do with the evangelical fundamentalism that is poisoning not only the church but our politics, and then having real harmful effects on the most vulnerable people in the United States and abroad. I don't want anything to do with that, but I like these people, love them, so let's talk about it. Well, I guess we can just start with the Bible. I haven't actually read this yet, but I feel like the practice of reading the Bible sort of just like takes me back to a time when I was trying to do things to just like check it off a box and just, be perfect and, follow all these rules. And so I kind of like just having biblical things in a different format. So this is only the New Testament, and this is a First Nations version, an indigenous translation of the New Testament. I haven't actually read it yet, but for now, this is the only way that I want to read the New Testament. I want a different kind of lens on it. I just want a different way of looking at it. And so a friend actually got me this from a conference, the Urbana conference, I think. So yeah, this was a really sweet gift. I got this for Christmas last year. So I'm going to be reading through this. Continuing with scripture in different formats, this is the book of Ecclesiastes, just as its own book. This is from alabaster.com, and they sell a lot of these just like single books of the Bible with like really beautiful photography in them. And I really like this. I read this the other day. I think I got like halfway through. And again, I just like the different format. It doesn't feel the same as my traditional Bible reading. And I mean, the book of Ecclesiastes is great. It's so questioning. Just everything is meaningless. Everything is meaningless. And then he just kind of like seesaws back and forth between like, you know what, never mind, just like eat and drink and have all the fun that you want. And then like, no, never mind, everything is meaningless. Wait, God does good things. Wait, everything's meaningless. Wait. It's just like really relatable. And I like this. Like I read a lot of books and don't read the Bible that much anymore. Like it just, I kind of study the Bible, but I don't just like read it as a book. And so in this format, it's a little easier to read it as a book. So I want to get like Psalms, I think. But yeah, I just thought these were really cool. For children, I love this. I've been reading this with Jensen. It's called The Book of Belonging, Bible Stories for Kind and Contemplative Kids. And it just kind of, with beautiful art, like tells the Bible stories. I love the language that it uses. There are little sections for, like a mindful moment and just kind of like those questions that kids often have. Like, well, wait a minute, like if God was good, why was there this like tempting thing in the garden or whatever? I forget exactly what this one was asking. But it's just really, really cool. We haven't gotten all the way through it yet, but I love this way of reading through the Bible. So if you have kids, I recommend this one. As far as like little devotionals, I got this in 2020. I just remember that it was during the pandemic and I still haven't finished it actually. But it's Bread for the Resistance, 40 devotionals or 40 devotions for justice people. Let's see, I got to day 13. That's what happens sometimes with these things, but I do want to finish going through it. Kathy Kang is one of the contributors, Sandra Maria Van Opstal. It was really, really good, and I'm going to pull this back out and I'm going to try to like commit to the 40-day thing. And I don't like the feeling of that anymore, you know, like committing to like a 40-day devotional. So I just don't, it's something that I used to be so into and I just don't like to do that anymore. So, you know, maybe I'll read a few days at a time or whatever. I just like want to break the rules with this kind of stuff a little bit now, but this is very small. I kind of want to just read through it in one sitting. I don't know, but yes, I would recommend this one. Okay, another little set that is just beautiful, and I've followed Danielle Koch Balfour, Oh Happy Danny, on Instagram. I followed her for a long time. I love the way that she uses art to express her ideas, and so I had to pick up this book that she published like a year ago, I think. And this one's called A Heart on Fire, 100 Meditations on Loving Your Neighbors Well. That's what Jesus said is the most important thing to do, to love him and love your neighbor. So yeah, I have a lot of her like art, even in my classroom and in my house, and I have the stickers and the t-shirts and stuff like that. So you've maybe seen some of these images before, like floating around Instagram, but I love her style and I love the way that she just like breaks things down in a simple but beautiful way. So I haven't actually gone through all of these yet. I would love to do like a book study or Bible study or whatever that was more like this, you know, focused on books like these. Look how pretty it is. So this is just like the book, but then she also came out with a guided workbook. So, you know, those of us who like to just like interact with like pen and paper and kind of like study things, you can also do that. Oh, Processing Collective Heartbreak. Doesn't this sound useful? Oh, is there a headline, national tragedy, or global issue that's weighing on your heart right now? What is it? Oh, can I write down a few things? What emotions are you currently experiencing? Write out as much as you can. One way to move through collective heartbreak is finding a way to mobilize. What is one small way you can give, amplify, or use your voice? Okay, this, what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I want to work through this little workbook as well. It's actually not that little, so it's kind of big. But these two go together. So yeah, if anybody else has these, let's talk about it. These seem great. Let's do this next. If you want to understand the history of how the evangelical Christian churches and the Republican Party became so intertwined. This book explains it really well. It's called Jesus and John Wayne, How White Evangelicals Corrupted a Faith and Fractured a Nation by Kristen Kobes-Dumez. I have already read this, but I kind of want to read it again. I don't know. It's just like, as you're reading it, you're like, I know. Wasn't that horrible? I feel like most Christians, though, do not know these things. And I've seen recently like clips of pastors saying things like, the church isn't becoming more political, politics are becoming more worldly, and so the church just has to stand up to fight against these things. No. The church was fighting against desegregation. They were fighting against integration. And when they lost that battle, they came together and regrouped and tried to find other issues that they could kind of like rally Christians around. And so abortion is one of them. That was just like not a controversial issue before, but they made it their kind of like central issue so that people would be one issue voters and listen to their pastors and only vote for people who were anti-choice, and then just ignore everything else that was going on in politics. So this is like a really insidious history of what the church has done, and it's very white Christian nationalist, and it's very the aesthetic of it all is very John Wayne, very cowboy, very individualistic, very, you know, just like one man and his gun and protector. So like gun rights, of course, play into this quite a bit. So this is just really important to know, even if you're not a Christian at all. This is important stuff to know. More on the history side, this is another one, The Color of Compromise, The Truth About the American Church's Complicity in Racism by Jemar Tisby. So this actually, I guess, would probably chronologically go right before Jesus and John Wayne. You could read these two together, but the church has been outwardly racist and, you know, against integration and things like that for a long time. They're rarely on the right side of history. And I remember like several years ago posting something about this on Facebook and getting into this like huge argument. I just pissed somebody off so badly that I would suggest that like churches have not been on the right side of history. Yeah, this just makes people incredibly upset to learn about. But the thing is, they wrote down sermons, and we still have those. And so they wrote down everything that they were talking about, sharing with their congregation. In college, I wrote this paper on like the Southern Baptist Convention and their thoughts on slavery and their defense of slavery from the Bible. And they had, you know, 35, 40-page sermons defending slavery from the scriptures. And so they have been racist and using the Bible to defend things like slavery and segregation and stuff forever. The American church has rarely been on the right side of anything, so it's just, you know, good to know. If we want to go back even further, this is actually super interesting. Beth Allison Barr is another historian. She wrote, oh, how cute. Will it focus? I don't know. Cute little Momo picture. I love this bookmark. Let me keep that out. But this is The Making of Biblical Womanhood, How the Subjugation of Women Became Gospel Truth. She takes it all the way back to like ancient Mesopotamia and goes through Middle Ages and just like the history of the church. I love church history. I think it's so interesting because it is political history, and it's always the history of women just kind of subverting the things that men were doing to try to keep all the power for themselves and try to subjugate them. So this book is awesome. And again, it goes very well with like The Color of Compromise and Jesus and John Wayne. This trifecta is awesome. Okay, let's keep it talking about women here. This one is called The Woman They Wanted, Shattering the Illusion of the Good Christian Wife by Shannon Harris. It's really thin. If you had to read when you were younger, I Kissed Dating Goodbye by Joshua Harris, that is her husband. She's the one who eventually married him, and yeah. And I don't even blame everything on him, especially after reading this book, but the church that they were in was horrible, and her life under these men was horrible. So if you want like a first person account as like a pastor's wife, the main thing that was great about this one for me is that as like a teenager in this evangelical church, I wanted this, right? I wanted this life. I wanted to be like a pastor's wife or a worship leader or whatever. Like I wanted kind of this power. I don't know. I was sort of two minds about it, but anyway, there was a part of me that wanted this life, and so to see how horrible it is interesting, and just to like be sad with her was nice. Beth Allison Barr also wrote a book she just came out with, I think, called Becoming the Pastor's Wife, and it's literally about that, how like the only way for women to preach was like under the cover of their marriage to a pastor, and they would get to do like the women's conference or whatever. So I really would like to read that. Another good one that I want to get is Star Spangled Jesus by April Ajoy. So both of those I don't have right now, but they're kind of newer ones that you could pick up. There's so many. Okay, I think I maybe haven't read this one, but I've read a lot by Rachel Held Evans, who very sadly passed away a couple of years ago at the age of like 30 something. Like she's just a little bit older than me. And she was like a Christian blogger, and kind of before this wave where all these other books were written, she was blogging and then eventually writing books, and just questioning like why couldn't women preach? Why do we hate gay people? What are we doing in the church? And so I just remember so many of these white, like super Christian nationalist men on Facebook. Like they would just call her RHE. They wouldn't even like say her full name. They wouldn't even type it out, and they just like tried to destroy her all the time. They were obsessed with her. They would talk about her all the time. But her writing is great, and she left an amazing legacy behind. And I have quite a few of her books. I think this is the only one I haven't read yet. So yeah, maybe I'll keep this at the top of my stack. There's so many. Okay. This is another one that's been on the top of my list for a while. Voices of Lament, Reflections on Brokenness and Hope in a World Longing for Justice. And it's by a bunch of different people. So it's essays by lots of people. I recognize quite a few of these names, and there's some that I don't. Ooh, but yeah, just like a really diverse collection of voices. Oh, I want to get her book, Kate Armas. She wrote an essay called Displacement and Belonging. I know she has a good book. I need to get that one and add it to this stack. But I think this would be a really good one to read right now from like the tone of the DMs that I've been getting. I feel like this is kind of what people are looking for right now. This one is teeny tiny. It's just called What If Jesus Was Serious? And it uses little kind of like illustrations to show what like Jesus actually said about different things. Like, if Jesus was serious, then we will be content to have what we need for today. If Jesus was serious, then we must not withdraw from our culture. Oh, if Jesus was serious, then a desire for justice should be affirmed. So yeah, this is just like a nice little, I feel like this would be good if you have maybe like teenagers who are kind of like, wait, what do we believe? What did Jesus actually say? I think this one would be good. Speaking of kids and trying to figure out how to raise your kids in the church, it's a bit of a struggle, I feel like. I haven't finished this one. I don't really love her writing style, to be honest. I was like, you're not good at metaphors. Maybe I'll be less judgy. She probably has good things to say. It's called Woven, Nurturing a Faith Your Kid Doesn't Have to Heal From. I like the premise. I like where we're starting from here. So I'll probably continue with this one at some point. This one seems like it'd be kind of fun to like read with a friend who's also sort of thinking about these things, you know? Going back to like church history, which I love, this one sounds so good. I actually got like, this is a advanced reader copy by Shannon K. Evans. The Mystics Would Like a Word, 6 Women Who Met God and Found a Spirituality for Today. And this is about like Teresa of Avila, Marjorie Kemp, Julian of Norwich, Therese of Lisieux, a lot of French and you know, these like Catholic women. But I remember taking this like medieval literature class, and a lot of the medieval literature is written by like nuns and monks and stuff. Those were kind of the only people who could read and write. So I love this kind of stuff. I didn't do much of like a focus on medieval church history or medieval history in general when I was doing my master's work, but I did a little bit, and it is fascinating to me, and I can't wait to read this one. I just love like that feeling of justification that comes from like 1,000 years ago. It's so good. This one I read a little while ago. It was put together by a bunch of the people at Fuller Seminary, which is near me. Edited by Mark Laberton, I think Laberton, I don't know. He was like the president at that time. Oh, I have a little card in here. I liked all the people who contributed to this, or at least like most of them. Lisa Sharon Harper. And anyway, just this was written after the 2016 election, when so many people were like, oh my gosh, all like the whole church, the whole like American evangelical church collectively like voted for Trump, as they did this time. So if you're heartbroken about that, can you still be evangelical? And so all the contributors to this book like answered that question in their own way. I would say no. Like back then when I first read this, I really liked it, and it got me thinking, oh God, they got someone from Focus on the Family? Ew. Liberty University? Oh, I remember reading that one and being like, really? Yeah, I would just say no. I don't need to read this again. I have no desire to stay connected to evangelicalism at all. So, but I know this is something that a lot of people struggle with and are working through, and I was working through it for a while, and it was good, but nah. I would be more interested in something like this, Brown Church, 5 Centuries of Latina social justice, theology, and identity. The church is not just white, so we need to be reading from leaders in churches with different like ethnic makeups. I went to a black church for quite a while, and that was probably the place where I like grew the most, you know, like we use that metaphor in the Christian world. But that was one of the best places ever for me. So I feel like, I guess I haven't read as much like theology from the black church, just because I just sat under it for a long time. Oh, but another book that's really good, I couldn't find it on my shelves. I think I lent it to somebody, but Red Lip Theology by Candace Benbrough, I think is the author. That one is great. That one is questioning a lot of the like homophobia and misogyny in the black church, because there still is a lot of that. So her book is great. So add that to this list of 25. How many are we up to now? Like close to 30. But anyway, this is sort of another version of that. And I'm really looking forward to what he has to say about this. I haven't been in churches that are like majority Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latine, besides like Calvary Chapel kind of is now. And I went to Calvary Chapel Bible College, and I don't like them. They are complementarian, which I think is just a joke. They don't believe that men and women are equal, and they justify it through the Bible. And they're so big on the end times. Oh my gosh, that's all we ever learned about and ever talked about. I just wanted to live in England, so I went to their campus in England, and I lived there for a while and had to like sit through all these classes. And I wasn't like opposed to everything they were saying at that time. I just remember thinking like, I'm smarter than all these people. Like not even necessarily in like a theological way. I was just like, these people don't know how to like read and write. It was just silly, whatever. So I'm not about that life. But yeah, this one looks good. Along those same kind of lines, this is called From a Liminal Place, an Asian American Theology. So, you know, there are huge Korean churches, like the percentage of Christians around the world that are Korean is huge, but they definitely are, I think, in a liminal space when it comes to like evangelical theology. And I see that why is my battery like always dying? I think I need a new one. But let me just show you the last couple then. This one is one I've been meaning to read. I started it and I've been meaning to finish it for a long time, but this one could probably be useful right about now. Thou Shall Not Be a Jerk. This is by another Korean man, Eugene Cho. This one everybody should read. This is called I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. Follow her on all the places. This is my only book by a white man that I have in here. It's called White Awake, an honest look at what it means to be white by Daniel Hill. This book is great for white people, so read this one. This is the only white man that I am endorsing today. Kathy Kang is another, I think, Korean leader and writer, and I have heard her speak many times. Well, not many times, but a couple of times. She was great. I follow her on you know, Instagram and everything. Raise Your Voice, Why We Stay Silent and How to Speak Up. So this could be a really helpful one for right now. Sarah Shin, she's another Korean Christian, Beyond Colorblind. If you just work in or live anywhere where there are people of different races and ethnicities than you, this is a good one. Here's another Jamar Tisby, How to Fight Racism, Courageous Christianity and the Journey Towards Racial Justice. I still need to read this one actually. And the last one is The Other Side of the Wall, A Palestinian Christian Narrative on Lament and Hope by Munther Isaac. I have seen him speak. He is a Palestinian Christian. I believe he lives in Bethlehem. And listen to everything that he has to say and read about Palestine just all the time. Like, this really actually needs to be at the very, very top of my list. Donate whatever you can do. Get this book for sure. And then the last one that I would recommend, pre-order Dan McClellan. Okay, he's the only other white dude that I'm going to recommend here, but Dan McClellan's book, I think it's called like What the Bible Says, or What the Bible Actually Says. And he is a scholar of the Bible and debunks a lot of the nonsense that Christians believe. So I will link all of these below, and I'm going to post about them, I think, on Instagram. My battery is really about to die, but I love you all. If you're a hater, go ahead and leave a comment. It'll just increase this video's visibility. So thank you. All right, bye.